This meeting will go on the website.
I guess it's not a real meeting though.
That's an important little fact to know, I think, for our conversation. I'm going to treat it as such.
Yeah, and I agree. It's just, we can't review the minutes from the meeting. We can all chit chat, and that's about it. So we might as well chit chat about the ARPA commission, the ARPA discussion for our public meeting.
Can I open the meeting, Joe? Is that all right?
Go for it.
Okay, Carl, welcome.
Hello.
Nice to have you here, along with all the other members. We wanted to chat a little bit about where we are and try to make sure that we're on the same table when it comes to the meeting next week, where townspeople will be represented and questions will be asked. And I think it's helpful that if we review some of the questions that we think are going to be asked and come to some sort of an understanding that this is how we're going to answer it, which is always truthfully, it's just no surprises. Try to eliminate surprises. That's an old saying in management, no surprises. I'd like to open the meeting by saying that I, with the permission of Joe and Alan, I went to see Erica recently to talk about our proposal. And I asked her, we reviewed it a little bit about the status of it. And I asked her what she felt the board, how she felt about it and how she thinks the board feels about it. She represented very positively that it's a good project. It's a perfect use of ARPA money as defined by the ARPA policies and procedures, and that she supports it wholeheartedly, and that she doesn't see any reason why the board would not support it as well. So I wanted to open the meeting with that. And if it is a public record, that's good. I want people to see that. Carl, you need to know that as well. Now, strange things can happen going forward. I've been around long, I have enough gray hairs to understand that things don't always go sometimes as you want them to go, but in trying to eliminate any surprises, that's the reason for this meeting. So we got off to a good start with Erica. There are other people on the board that support it as well. And I'm not quite sure if there are naysayers. I don't know who they are. I'm not as familiar with the board members as some of you are, but I'm pretty confident saying it's not 100% consensus. But I think we need 5 votes. There's 9 board members, and we need a majority, I believe.
Sounds right.
So we need 5, and I can count 4 without Christina or Erica. And I'm thinking that one of them would put us over the top. So I'm feeling very good about it being approved. But some things have come up of late. You know, there was a skid steer put in at the last meeting for Troy for quite a bit of money. And we are over the appropriated amount of money by, I sent an email out, I think $170,000.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
And, you know, Erica still took the proposal from Troy. So what that means, folks, as you know, Carl, something has to be sliced. We can't approve everything.
Yeah.
And Carl, you've been there before. You've been at town meetings and watched that happen. So for the purpose of this meeting, Carl's here. We can talk a little bit about, Carl, about how you came up with that number. And maybe some of the board members can ask some questions in preparation for next week's meeting.
Okay. So let me just bring up on my other screen here the numbers. Okay, so first of all, on the design plans, if we're going through with the entire program that we had laid out, then we're going to need a new field survey down at the south end, because things are so flat. You have a lot of puddling, you have some drainage issues, and the only way to really resolve that is to have a good surveyed base map. So I put in a number for that of $2,900. And that's based on my estimate of the time that it takes to do the field work and to prepare a base plan. Then in terms of the engineering design, including a preliminary plan for review, a final plan, permitting, meetings, and all that, I had estimated about $4,700. So for the, to get those plans set up and get them through the board and get them approved and then have them ready for getting prices from contractors, we're looking at the $7,600. Then the next thing is let's see. Oh, I've got the schedule here. I haven't got the, let me just get the rest of the
So
estimate.
Carl,
Yes,
we are, the proposal that's in front of us and we're talking about is the, what is it, 196, Alan? 197? It's the 196 proposal because you put in for a couple. And I want to make sure that we are addressing the total repair
okay.
at 196 or thereabouts.
A lot of those costs are the same between the cheaper version of the fix and the real fix. I think the big change is on one specific area. So I think a lot of the numbers that we had are the same for both, you know, like area 2 and area 3. I don't know if it's the correct areas, but you know, those will be the same. It's area 1 that's the real difference in price.
Okay, so starting with area 1, that's at the northwest corner of the field. That's the new electric box. And I've got in there about $2,000, which includes the a new box and the work to do that. And keep in mind that I've done these prices in terms of an outside contractor doing the work. If some of the work should be done by the town forces, then obviously we would have some savings. But the reality is that Troy is probably extremely busy, and we're, you know, better off getting a consistent contractor on site rather than you know, a day here and a day there.
Are you talking about a new electric panel behind home plate?
No, that was there's a box on the northwest corner of the field that's damaged.
You're gonna raise it.
Yes, yeah, we're gonna replace it. I think the cover's broken and it just has to be taken out and, you know, redone.
Yep.
And I know that, you know, if somebody went in there and did it on their own, no doubt it would be cheaper than a couple $1,000s that I have here. But certainly if you're gonna let it out to bid, those are the reality prices.
I agree.
Okay, so then the, let me just bring up the.
When we get into a discussion, it's possible that the townsperson might say, why can't the town assume some of this work?
Well,
And
that's a subject that, you know, I mean, it, I can't answer that because I don't know
No.
the exact, you know, workload that Troy has right now and how soon you want this to be done.
so I like what you say. And I think the politically correct answer is, this is what I've been asked to represent to the town. If we do find along the way that there are ways to cut costs, we'll do that, something like that. About townspeople doing some work, but we're not gonna, at this point, I don't want to give the impression that we're splitting the work out between Troy and, because there's been no interest at this point of anyone in the town doing that work, other than digging the posts for the light poles, I believe.
So how does the funding work? Do they just give us a check for 196 or do they just pay as we go?
No, I would guess you submit bills as you go and they pay them, but I don't know that for a fact.
Okay.
That's how we've been doing it.
So basically that number would just be a max. That's a max number.
I'd
Yes.
say so.
They won't give us any more than that. But if we spend less, they keep it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think that in the long term, depending on how the bids come in, we may see a really wide range of prices here. If it's somebody local, the night stayed out, you may get a low price. If it's somebody from out of town, you probably get a high price. It's very
Sure.
difficult to estimate, and you know what material prices are like these days. They can change at a moment's notice. And if you were to check with Troy, because he's doing a drainage project right now, the people who sell piping don't hold the price for more than 48 hours, literally. So it's a tough business at the moment.
So I'm a townsperson and I'm listening to the presentation. And I have a question, and the question is, you don't seem confident that the prices you've given are going to be able to accomplish what you say needs to be accomplished. And that presents some apprehension. How do we answer that question?
You say we have well, I'm sorry, but we have 3 areas of concern, and we do the major areas first, and if we have monies left over, we do as much as we can with what we're getting.
And one other thing to remember is that if the price goes above, then we would negotiate with the lowest bidder, because everybody's bidding on the same thing. We would negotiate with the lowest bidder and come down to see what can be cut in order to not exceed the monies that are available.
I have a question.
That's a good answer, Carl. That's a good answer.
Since I've never been a part of anything like this, is this a collective effort? Like, is the commission, are we all gonna look at the bids together? Carl, are you involved in this at all, determining what gets left out of the plan? I just don't know.
Okay, so what typically happens is that your commission is gonna make the decision. And I'm there to advise you on what may be cut and what may need to be adjusted. So I'm there for the advice, and you're the ones that are gonna make the final decision. And then it may well turn out, you have to check with Erica, that the final contract may have to be approved as a town contract, in which case it may have to go to the Board of Selectmen. I'm not sure anymore how the mechanism would work, but in the past, it's always been the Board of Selectmen and the first select person that signs the final contract. So they have to be involved necessarily.
There's some discussion on to what extent the Board of Finance is involved with ARPA money. So I can't answer that question 100%, Carl, tonight.
Yeah. But I feel very confident that wherever the lowest price comes in, and let's assume for a moment that we're above the money that's available, as I said before, we will discuss it with the contractor and adjust accordingly.
So are we going to have anything for the public to look at? Is there going to be a document on camera, or are we just going to review, like you just did with Carl with us, on the line items that represent the project? What do you think is best, Joe?
Yeah, so I don't know quite how to share a document in a Zoom call, but I have provided to Alan a PDF file, which shows and I think you might have seen it as well. It's a PDF file that shows a 24 by 36 plan, and all these areas that are identified in the cost estimate are shown on that plan. So we show the northwest corner, we show the lighting that's to be put in, and I circled the area down on the south end that needs to be adjusted in terms of regrading and drainage.
I think if Alan has that PDF, he can send it to whoever's hosting the meeting that night, and they could easily put the PDF up, and Carl could point things out on the PDF during the Zoom meeting.
Yep, that we can do.
That's good.
So Al, just make sure that you've got that PDF and you forward it to whoever it is that's hosting that meeting. But all that being said, I think what we can also do is, I have not been to one of these meetings, Stuart. So at the meeting, I would imagine they say, okay, next on the docket is the ARPA money for 193,000 or whatever for the upgrades at River Road. Now, did whoever's running the meeting, say, here's the bullet points?
We'll be asked to present the project.
So
They'll say whoever we want to talk, and we need to define that tonight, how we want that to go. Erica would probably say, since I'm the board member, she might just say Stu. And then I would take it from there and either introduce you, Joe, or Carl, whoever else, Alan, whoever else should be speaking at that point.
Sure.
And we need to discuss that and make that perfectly clear how that process should go so we don't trip over each other.
No, and I mean, I think that what we're talking about for this money is all of Carl's drainage, the new pole lights in the back of the parking area, the new panel in the back of the parking, in the, sorry, not in the back of the parking area, the new
Baseball.
pole lights in the back of the walking path, and then the new panel board behind home plate. I think electrically, that's it, right? And the rest is drainage.
Yes, the area number 2 is the drainage. Area number 3 is another repair to distribution box there, and area 4 is the new lighting. So areas 1 and 2, basic repairs. Area 3, basic repair. Area 4, all the new lighting along the western side of the field.
Okay,
And again, that's outlined on the PDF file that Al and I have access to.
so I would say, Carl, you're gonna be at this meeting?
Oh, yeah, is this going to be an in-person meeting or a Zoom meeting?
I think you can do either or.
Yeah, it's both.
It's both? Okay, well, whatever your group wants to do, I'll be there in person or I'll attend the Zoom meeting, one or the other.
I'm thinking I'll probably go in person because it's just better to be there in person.
You
Okay.
should be there, Joe.
And I
And
also
this-
think
This
Carl's
is,
gonna
when
talk
when
about
is this meeting, Joe?
the 11th at 6:30 at the town office building.
Monday.
Monday. Okay, I have the meeting here, but I didn't have a time on it yet.
Is
So
it
it's at
6:30, Al?
6:30.
Are you
think
available for
so.
that, Carl?
I'm available.
What do you want him to do, Joe? You want him to be there or Zoom?
Yeah,
in?
I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna be there.
What do you want Carl to do?
Whatever Carl wants. He's a grown man.
Okay, all right. All right.
Okay, I will be there. And
Right on.
hopefully we're early on the agenda, so.
Oh, yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, we've been to those meetings before.
Yeah,
You sit
Yes,
through Board of Ed for 4 hours and then they go, we're gonna push you guys to next meeting. But
I
I've gotta, I mean, I don't know what these other projects are, but I don't think there are a lot of projects that are extremely involved like this and or like that camera system for $250,000. That sounds like it's gonna need some discussion, and
that might not make it.
I hope that, well, if that doesn't make it, then you have a surplus, right?
She's got that's gonna be a politically dicey situation because the Board of Finance wants that.
I
I'm
don't
not
see
quite,
value.
I'm not quite sure what that has to do with ARPA, but
Yeah, I don't see value in it, but I think, I know what the electrical side is. Carl knows what his side is, so I think that's how we approach it. Then anyone else that wants to come and support Zoom or otherwise and say, hey, I'm a board member too, and I think this is a good reason. I mean, this is a good thing to do with ARPA money because, and expound on it.
so it's our opportunity when we go to present it, and Joe, you can open it up with, if they call on me, I'll just turn it over to Joe and talk about the value of the project, what the park means to the town. Those are some comments that I'm sure you're very comfortable in making, and Alan as well. You two decide how you want to do that. Alan could possibly talk about the use of the park, and Joe, you could talk about the improvements to the park or whatever you two want to do.
Yep,
And I'll be available if someone gets tongue tied or gives me a look like help. I'll think of something to say.
so how about our, what's the racquetball court called?
Pickleball.
Thank you. The pickleball court has got a lot to do with Carl's proposed cost to raise that corner of the field, right?
Yeah,
Well, if it's gonna be down in that area, certainly the grading can be done to accommodate whatever it is that you want to put there in the future. That's the whole purpose. So yes, you're absolutely right, Joe.
So I think we should, maybe Carl, you should talk about that a little bit too. That's CIP funded. The money's already there for it. It's a pickleball court to go behind the basketball court on the commuter parking lot side.
Okay,
And you're gonna be raising that area, right?
yes. We're
Okay.
gonna we're gonna create an area that doesn't have that drainage issue that's out there now, with a lot of puddling and water held back from going out to the southwest corner. Yeah.
Is that on the PDF as proposed?
I haven't shown all the details because you really need a good survey there, that I've mentioned early on. So but it's gonna go out toward the south and southwest corner somewhere.
This
Maybe
is the-
just some language saying proposed pickleball court so the town can see it.
So I know we've discussed this before, and it's a perfect time to do it again. I've had multiple conversations with Erica about telling her that we want the pickleball court in a different spot, in a different location. And she has said that she is not sure if that can happen because it might be changing the project. I've talked to other people and they said it's not really changing the project. It's really just changing the positioning of it. So I'm still waiting for an answer to that question. Are we going to be allowed to put the pickleball court somewhere else? It's what we want to do, but that's not what the original description of the plan was.
But I think common sense dictates, why destroy a volleyball court to create a pickleball court when the volleyball court's viable and people use it? So a pickleball court in an area that we're going to raise and make better drainage wise, it's perfect to put pickleball there. We've maintained the volleyball court and we have added yet another court to the park.
And somebody mentioned to me that it is the River Road Athletic Complex,
That
right?
is what it's called, yes.
So why, we have a grass area that nobody can use because of the drainage problem, when we have nothing going on there anyway. So let's put it
Right.
there and add to the complex, right? I mean, it does
Absolutely.
make a lot of sense. I just, I don't know where the pushback is, if there is going to be pushback. I've been, like I said, I've been waiting to hear the answer to that question.
I don't think it should be an argument, but I think when we talk about the drainage and the possibility of the pickleball court there, just say it like that and let it lay,
I agree.
right?
It's
Okay,
one of the
so-
enhancements. It's one of the enhancements that Joe can talk about, or you, Alan, coming down the pike. We're very proud of that. Et cetera, et cetera.
If I could just jump in for a second here, I did, last year, I did lay out the pickleball courts. And they were at the very south end of the basketball court and fit in very nicely. And there were two options. One where the courts are side by side and one where there's a little bit of separation between the two. So both of them work right at the south end of the current project.
And the south end is the commuter parking lot end?
Yeah, but it's not close to it, but it's, it would be just south of the current basketball court.
Okay,
And,
But-
and,
Do you
and then
show
it
the
fits-
volleyball? Do you show the volleyball court as well, Carl?
yes, it's all still on it.
All right, so that's
The
good.
volleyball court and the basketball courts are not affected at all.
That's
You can
good.
still fit- You can still fit in the pickleball courts.
I think
And
our C,
Alan should have that as well, so he should be able to share that with you, or I can share it with you too.
okay.
I think our CIP money was only for one court though, right?
I think
We
it was
made-
for two.
It was for two.
It's for
Yeah.
two, but there's a
Wow.
lot of confusion surrounding that because the original project was to replace the volleyball court, which is a 30 by 60, with
With one.
two pickleball courts, which are 30
Don't
by
fit.
60. So it didn't make sense in the first place. I think it was for one court.
Okay, but if the CIP funding is for two courts, I think what we do is, Carl's got a drawing that shows the courts at the south end of the hoop court. Be good to have that the night of the meeting. Just,
Okay,
or maybe Carl, you show the drainage and, oh, by the way, here's where the pickleball courts fit in nicely, and due to the new drainage, they'll live better there.
well, it's one of the areas that has to be repaired. So it would fit in, the grading would fit in very nicely.
Yeah.
And it'd probably be at the same level as the current basketball court, but there's plenty of room for a double pickleball court, so. Not a problem at all.
I like that.
Okay, so if you haven't seen it, I don't know, Alan, you may have the PDF file still, or,
I should
can
still have
check it
all
out.
that stuff. Yeah,
okay.
So you don't need it, Alan? You're good?
yeah,
Okay.
Alan, can you send that to the group, that PDF?
yeah.
Thank you.
That's a big show and tell item for next week.
Agreed.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to sacrifice your volleyball court at all. There's no reason for it.
So Carl, when you send up that PDF that they're gonna possibly show, the host is gonna show at that meeting on the 11th, can it show the pickleball courts?
Yeah, I mean, they're two separate drawings. If you want them all on one drawing, I mean, I can certainly do that, but I'd rather not kind of mix the two.
Okay,
You know, I mean, it's, I don't think it's gonna be confusing at all. So it'll, and I have actually two options, like I said. There's room enough for the pickleball courts literally to be very close to each other, or they can be apart by something like 10 feet.
okay.
And they still both fit in very nicely. Not a problem.
So I think when you discuss that corner of the field and how we're going to raise it for drainage, mention the pickleball courts in that area.
Okay,
That we already have money approved for.
CIP, yeah,
okay.
I like it.
Too.
Yeah, that'd be a great enhancement to this field.
So we're gonna open the meeting. They'll probably turn to me, they might turn to you, Joe, whatever Erica wants to do. And then I'm not quite sure if we talk about the enhancements first or the problems first. How do you see that going, Joe?
I think the first thing we do is talk about how great the park is, how used the park is, and how important to the townspeople it is. And we're gonna make the park even better through things that the townspeople have told us, i.e. drainage and more lighting for safety. And then talk about where the lights go, and then Carl talks about the drainage.
Okay.
Does that
And
make sense?
I think maybe we cap it off talking about safety. I think that's the hot button right there.
Yeah.
Because we all know it, but just to say it really quickly, there's electrical boxes that get filled with water. If somebody reaches in there, whoops, maybe we have a real big problem. The track, after it rains even once, we're talking about, slippery conditions because of the water. In the winter time, the track is frozen. People are still walking on solid ice to go around this track. So when we phrase it like that, it seems like one of those things that nobody's going to want to dismiss safety, especially when you're
Sure.
talking about lawsuits and things like that.
So Carl, we're talking about removing the ice from the south side? Is that the side where the ice is, south?
Yeah,
And-
there are some patches everywhere. I mean, I walked this thing too, various times of the year. So it's not just that one location on the north side. It all depends
Mhm.
on, conditions specific to sometimes even a certain day. And where the groundwater table sits. But basically, the worst conditions are, I think, near the, near home plate area on the baseball side and on the south side.
That's the
Those are-
commuter parking lot side. Is that the south
Yeah,
side?
the south
that's-
side is the commuter parking, yes.
That's
yeah.
pretty bad. I have to walk around it. It's not safe. So Carl, you're very confident that these improvements will fix that?
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's costing what it does. And I've explained to Alan, back in the, I think it was in the late 80s or early 90s, when the field was constructed, that area especially, there was all the gravel for the athletic field, for the soccer field, football field, whatever you want to call it. All the gravel that's in there now was taken out of a large hole at the southwest corner. And in its place, because it was a deep hole, the town accepted a material from Yukon at the time, and it was a very mixed bag. It was not the best of material. And that's why you probably have some settlement in that area that, it needs to be fixed at this point now. And the thing is that the gravel was important because at the north end of the field, it was all concrete and asphalt chunks from the highway over the many years that DOT put it there. And in fact, I still advise public works crews sometimes to just walk the field and look for any potential holes because the concrete slabs and the asphalt were pointing every which way. I have some photos of that, and it was a horrible spot. So we filled it in as best we could with the gravel from the site, and and so there's some settlement there too. It's just the nature of the beast that's underneath. There's one spot though on the east side where the pavilion is now that we left particularly for a future potential leach field if you wanted to create a small building. And we had talked early on about a little community center for kids to go to, and that would give you restroom capabilities there, even for large events, because the gravel that's there it's an excellent spot for drainage. So we left that alone, and that's in the parking area just east and southeast of the pavilion.
Well, that would be something, huh? That'd be great.
Yeah, it would. It would. And then it's already been, I already had done the calculations years ago for accommodating a full day's event, at the site, and how much we needed in terms of sewage capability. So we know that it will work there.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So to play devil's advocate, I think one of the questions at the last meeting was, why wasn't it, you told me the fill, that's a really good answer to the question of why wasn't it fixed right the first time? We don't want to get into any finger pointing, of course, or try to embarrass anybody, but we certainly are repairing some of the ills of the past, right?
Yes, we are. And the thing is that the same problem existed then as does now. We were limited by the amount of money that was available.
Sure.
Otherwise, we would have brought gravel in instead of taking it out of an available hole. Underneath this site, it was a real shame what DOT did here to dump all this material, because underneath the site is anywhere from 40 to 60 feet of beautiful gravel and sand. And it was all messed up by what DOT did in here. So, we had to work with what was available. And, when we took the gravel out of the hole at the southwest corner, well, we had to find something to put back into it.
Sure.
And at that time, Yukon was happy and we were happy to get something in there. But it was a mixed bag of materials, and you know what the settlement is like when you have that kind of a mixture, and compaction isn't perfect. So
That's a good explanation. You might get some feedback on that, though. Carl, were you involved in that project at that point, Carl?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we surveyed it. We put the project, and the project was in several phases as well. So that was another thing that kind of hampered us a little bit. I think it was 3 different phases and 3 different contracts.
So there was a little finger point in the last meeting by one person in particular who said, why was that allowed to happen? Weren't you involved at that point, Carl? And I just want to make sure that we're able to answer that question if it comes up again. And I'm certainly not trying to embarrass you or be critical of you in any way whatsoever.
Well, keep in mind that I'm always in an advisory role. I don't control the checkbook. And if I had my choice, I have so many projects where things would be done differently if we had the money to do it.
Good
In this
answer.
case, we did the best we could with the funds that were available.
Okay. All right. So I think what I'm going to do is put together a quick intro and then talk about the electrical part. And then Carl talks about the drainage, and anybody else that wants to chip in. But Stuart, I've never been to one of these meetings you have. So where do the questions come from? The board? Or
Well,
from
this particular meeting is being attended by the public.
the last was not?
The board, no, this is our public forum, and the public, even though they don't vote on the final approval, the board does, we're required to go to a town meeting and tell the public what we're doing, what is the project, how much do we want to spend? And they have the right to give their opinion, yay or nay. So I know that, well, not know, I feel that if they come back positively, I really think as a board member that I really don't have much choice than not to approve it. I mean, that's how I feel. It's a
Right.
great project. So, and if the public thinks otherwise, then we'll take it from there. I don't know what's going to happen.
I think the general public feels that the River Road facility is a good facility. Gets a lot of use, and there's a lot of positive feedback. I know, Alan, you get your stones busted occasionally because there's a tattered flag or a broken light or something silly. But I think 99% of the time, it's a positive reaction. That field gets a lot of use.
Yeah. The walking track gets the most use. That's the funny part about it. You know, people
Yeah,
are
by
there
every-
every day from sun up to sundown, you know?
Keep those poop bag dispensers full, Alan.
Not full of poop.
No.
You know, originally the walking track wasn't even a part of this project, but
Oh,
I felt that this was a really nice thing. I'd seen it in other places, and I'm just very happy that it worked out as well as it did. Very
Yeah.
popular. In fact, I walked it too, so.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's great.
that kind of friendly, upbeat comment is really good, really great for what we want to do on next week. You
Yeah,
know,
I
talk,
agree.
talk rhythmically, slowly, positively. This park is, and we all agree that this park is great. I do, as I certainly do.
I think it's like trying to tell people, you know, ice cream's really good. People know this park is really good. You don't need to sell it hard.
Well,
That's true.
we are going to try to sell it though. $198,000, what we're selling.
That's not that much money compared to other projects, though. If you think about it. Like, what was the radios? 250?
Yeah.
And I know it's tangible to the firemen, but no one in the town is ever going to see those radios. Everyone in the town is going to see everything that happens at River Road. So
I think that's
our
another good
pro-
comment to make, actually.
I think our project is going to be dollar for dollar the thing that the townspeople see the most.
Alan, I think, and just trying to be helpful here, I think Joe can talk about the benefits of the park. And then if something comes up like, you know, I don't care if water gets in there once in a while, why would I care? I think, Alan, you would need to address the safety to the children of the town. About how it does fill up and it does get muddy and it is a problem. I mean, that's really important that you get right back on that subject and respond to it. That's the reason we're doing this. The drainage is a real problem.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. But I think also if people realize that everyone's going to see what goes on at the park, that's great. They'll be able to see the money actually being used, put to use, and benefiting them. I know the radios for the fire department benefit all of us, but we never see that. And if they get a new skid steer at the Department of Public Works, it does benefit the town, but no, unless someone drives by and sees it in use, it's not as important. I think this is gonna impact the town more than anything else in a way that people see things get done.
I hope
This is a
I
good
hope a
meeting.
few extra people show up from the public. Just you know, people will often stop me at the park and they want to say how great it is. And, you know, like we use it, we love coming here every day. That will only help at this meeting. I just hope that a couple of those people show up to make it look like it's not just us
Amen.
that want this money, you know?
Did you post that flyer down at
I
the
did.
board?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Good job.
Carl, just as a general question, how long do you think, I'm assuming that a portion in that southeast corner, the walking track's gonna be disabled for a while. How long do you think it would take to fix that so that you can walk on it again?
I would say we have to budget at minimum at least 1 month. for the work to be done. And that's because you're not working every single day. You're gonna have a couple of 2, 3 weekends where things are gonna lie about and
Yeah, weather.
yeah, and so, from start to finish, and then you've got seeding to do, areas to protect. So it'll be a bit here.
Do
So
do
I
you
would-
think, do you think that people will be able to take a shortcut once they hit the outfield fence in right field to cut across or no?
Well, that depends on you. I mean, it would be good to channel people across at that point, and that's a good spot. The only thing is that if it lasts for a month or two, you may have some fixing up to do, along a new path. Think
That's
of,
reasonable.
a place like Yukon where you have sidewalks, but the path that people use is actual diagonal going across. And that, once you start walking that, it shows. And then the
I know
smart,
exactly where you're talking about, and that's a sidewalk now. They took those natural pathways and laid concrete on
there you go. I was just gonna say that that tells you something right there, that's where the next sidewalk's gonna go. Yeah.
them.
So, Carl, how long to do the engineering plans?
Well, I think the survey has to be done first, so you have to look at someone's survey schedule, but the plans probably a month to a month and a half. And then you have the meetings, they have to be scheduled around town meetings, and that would have to be checked with Mike D'Amato and see what how he thinks things would fit in. And I'm sure we have to go through planning and zoning. Because drainage is involved, we may have to go to wetlands as well. So you're probably looking at 2 to 3 months. You're not looking at getting it done this year. You're looking at next year sometime.
Okay.
Wow.
And the ideal time would be to do it in the summer months. And
Sure.
the reason I say that, we're trying to fix drainage, but it's best to work with that kind of an area when water table and precipitation are low.
Mhm.
And that way you don't have to work in any muddy situation. That would be the ideal.
I think in our favor too, a little bit in the future, we may find more stability when it comes to construction materials and those kind of things.
Yes.
It's gotta get better soon.
So Alan, that meets the timelines of spending the ARPA money as far as I remember. Do you remember any other deadlines that might affect us?
No, 2024 is the number that I remember, or the year I remember.
Has
I
to be spent by,
I think I was a little surprised, actually. I thought maybe that this project could start, I don't know, in September or something like that. Does anybody think that's going to be an issue to push it back a year? Are people going to throw a fuss about that?
I think primarily you got Carl, who's the expert on this, and he's seen this happen time and time again. So his advice is the proper advice. I think he's right. It's a next year project.
yeah,
The problem again is even when you have the plans done, to get through the public meetings takes time. It just takes time because when does planning and zoning and wetlands, you have to go to wetlands first. And then after they say, okay, then you go to planning and zoning. So each one of them meets what, once a month, twice a month? I think just once a month, right?
not sure.
Yeah.
I
So
wonder if that
anyway,
could be fast tracked somehow.
well, you could talk to Mike D'Amato and see what he has to say. Because he's probably the best person to ask that question.
Well, if it gets approved, I will call you, Carl, because you're going to have
Okay.
to tell me all this again.
Not a problem. I mean, I put together a schedule of, the things that need to be done. But it's oftentimes it's the regulatory agencies that kind of hold you up. We shouldn't have to do an awful lot here because we're not building anything really new. We're working on an existing template.
Yep.
That's what Mike has told me multiple times, that it's nothing new. You're repairing something that's already there. It's a repair. It's not necessarily a new job. He did say that that very small fix on the track, which I'm assuming is like the north end,
Yeah.
where we would put a drainage under the track. He said that's wetland area, but he said that's the only part. And the lights, he said, whatever the normal thing is for the lights, he doesn't see that would be a problem either. So maybe it would go faster than anticipated.
Okay, no, that's fine. And the ideal thing would be if it can be approved by the wetland agent rather than the entire commission. So that, you might ask them that question. And in many places, it's up to the agent to make a decision rather than the entire commission. If it's a project that is not doing anything new or potentially that would impact, the general public as a whole.
Alan, I think the other thing you're gonna find that's a problem is most contractors I'm working with right now are booked out 6 months.
Oh. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I've seen that as well, is that on a lot of projects, sometimes you are literally lucky to get 1 to 2 people to give you a price.
Right.
And I just experienced that on building a small detention basin down at Lake Hayward in the East Haddam and Colchester area, and only one person showed up to give a price. It
Right.
was put out publicly, and I think they approved the fact, but yeah, everybody is very busy.
Right. And that's gonna stop probably sometime around the beginning of next year.
Yeah, and that's why I'm looking at a realistic schedule, but if it happens to work faster than that, that would be great.
I think we'll get more bang for our buck next year than we will this year. It's still a feeding frenzy out there right now.
It is. It is.
It's
So Mike
crazy.
D'Amato, Alan, he's the gentleman on the board, right? Land
Yep.
use guy.
Yep.
He's been extremely positive about this project. Speaking up, actually interrupting other people, saying this project is a good project. So he's really on our side about this.
This project directly serves everybody in town every day of their lives. It's the perfect project for everyone. We all get to appreciate.
Told me,
All
let's vote. So
right, so I think
when is the meeting? Is it Tuesday at 6:30?
Monday.
Monday at 6:30
I'll
at
be
the
there
town
Tuesday
office
at
building
6:30.
upstairs.
Yes. That's
Where
where
we
that's
go.
where the other ones were.
Okay.
Oh, that's where we had the ARPA meeting?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's good. 6:30 Monday evening.
All right.
It's on the calendar.
Carl, thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
take
Carl.
care now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for your expertise, Carl.
All right, have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Joe, you're good? You want to chat a little bit? You good?
I think we're good. I'm gonna write something up and send it to you guys so you at least see what I'm gonna say, and then you can yell at me if you have to.
Well, I don't think we're gonna do that.
I mean,
The
Carl,
bullet points are important.
right, I'll send the bullet points, but I think when it comes to discussion in Carl, everyone in this town knows who Carl is. He affects every project in town, and he's appreciated. So to have him on our side, or at least in this project, is a good thing. He's the voice of
Well,
reason.
I think, Joe, you carry some of that as well, being a member of this board for quite a while. I think it's appropriate for you to speak up on a project that serves the town so well with money that's available now and won't come out of taxpayer money. That's important too.
Yeah, that's the bit. Well, let's not fool ourselves. Someone's paying for this money, and I get the feeling at the end of the day, it's us.
Well, somewhere down, federally.
At some point, yeah.
Federally, yeah.
Don't ever lose that perspective in life. My youngest son, Nicholas, said out loud in this house once, government money, and I'm surprised he's still alive today. Because the government doesn't make money, they just take ours.
Well, they do make money.
I took my son to a tour at URI years ago. And I'll try to make this as quick as possible. So we toured the gym, we toured the athletic fields, and of course the classrooms. And he looks at me and he goes, "Dad, all this is free." And I go, "Dylan, as long as I pay the tuition, it's all free."
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
That's a story that I tell him every now and again when he forgets about fiduciary responsibilities. So this has been a good meeting. Thank you all for coming. You've all been a big help.
I think we're gonna be okay, guys, truthfully.
Yeah,
We're not building a strip mall. This is a positive thing.
Preparation is key. This was good.
I
Good.
agree, I agree.
All right, we'll
Right,
see you all. See you all. Well, you adjourn us there, Chairperson.
Yeah, it's not a real meeting, so we're just talking. So, I think we're just all set.
all right.
All right.
See you boys see you boys Monday.
Yeah, we'll see you guys Monday.
See
Get
you
those
there.
poop bags up, Alan.
You know, I-
I don't want to go down there and find another empty dispenser. This pisses me off, man, I tell you. Good night, everybody.
Nice.
See you guys.